Siamo qui con il governatore Bill Ritter, ex governatore del Colorado, direttore del Centro dell'Economia delle Nuove Energie e consigliere del Presidente degli Stati Uniti per l'Energia Pulita, Barack Obama. Well, I would like to begin with the political question.
Yes.
Yesterday in the discussion you told that in the public opinion in the United States, the idea of solidarity is interpreted like a first step to communism. Would you like to?
This was a comment I made that had to do with our document and whether we were going to have terms like solidarity in the document. I feel like I'm in solidarity with the rest of the world. I have lived in other places in the world, particularly in Africa. I was a Catholic lay missionary, so I very much understand the concept, but I said be careful of loaded terms and how Americans might view them. Solidarity was the movement of Lech Walesa in Poland, coming out of that, and many people hear solidarity and they think of socialism, they think of communism, they think of labor movements, and so I wanted our document not to be burdened by words that might cause Americans to look at it and discredit it because it was somehow a poor reflection on democracy.
Understand, wonderful, very important question for the European to understand about the situation because, well, now we are going to Paris,
Yes.
Very difficult negotiation, and this point, the American point of view, is very important to define the future, the
Yes.
future of humankind, I should say.
Yes?
That means, do you believe that President Obama can do in the last term, in the last time he is in condition to run the country, to make significant improvement in this direction?
Yes, I do believe that, and I believe it in part because I've actually made recommendations to the president. I had an entire project where I brought experts from around the United States together and then made recommendations to the president about executive action he could undertake without Congress. So there are two questions here. One is, can President Obama lead on this issue of climate change and clean energy? And the answer is yes. The second is, what will Congress do? I think Congress will stay in a place where they will be inactive. So it would be a better situation if Congress and the president were working together. But President Obama feels very strongly about this, and he is very much trying to move the issue of climate change. Yesterday he was tweeting, he was on Twitter talking about climate change. So that's, I think, significant. The other thing is, in each of the 50 states, they have individual policies. So California is going to 50% renewable energy by 2030 because Governor Brown has moved them. In Colorado, where I was governor, I signed legislation that gave us 30% renewable energy by 2020, and we're on pace to make that. So even without Congress acting, the fact that you have a president who is leading on climate change, and you have many of the states in the 50 states who are being very aggressive about clean energy policies that have to do with reducing emissions, greenhouse gases. Those are the positive things happening in the United States that sometimes don't get recognized in Europe.
Well, the impression I have is that in the Senate of the United States, the positions are completely opposite to those of President.
The majority in the United States Senate are Republicans, and there are some Republicans who have voted to say they acknowledge climate change exists, but to move important legislation, you need 60 votes out of 100, and there are not 60 votes to move the president's clean energy legislation in the United States Senate. There probably are, I don't know if there are 60 votes that say climate change is real, but the fact of the matter is if you're going to try and pass legislation, there is enough opposition in the United States Senate to legislation that would be about clean energy, about addressing greenhouse gases, that you could not pass legislation.
Well, it's serious.
Yes.
From this point of view.
Yes.
Well, another question I have. Now the shale gas and shale oil is becoming, for the United States, one of the best leverage system. But they are destroying the environment.
Well,
to a larger extent?
I think most people understand that we need to transition to a future that has far less carbon, whether it's carbon zero or carbon neutral or much, much, much less carbon. But we have to transition to that place. And in order to do that, the United States is using natural gas to replace coal. So there's actually a benefit if you replace old, inefficient coal plants with new, cleaner burning natural gas. I understand it's a hydrocarbon. I understand that over the long term, we have to have a sense for how much carbon we can put into the atmosphere. But for now, natural gas is actually a climate benefit and a positive thing for the world, but also for the United States. If we could replace old, inefficient coal plants throughout the world with cleaner burning natural gas, there's a great deal of emissions reduction that happens as a result of that. On the oil front, I think it is important to just continue to look at other ways to move people. You know, the transmission issues are very significant, or transportation issues are very significant. But we import oil, and we are not, we are still have a heavy reliance upon oil. So for our ability to develop oil, it means that we're not importing it from other places, and some of those places that are unfriendly to the United States. So there's still a great political support, even among Democrats, for extracting oil, for domestic production of oil, and fewer imports of oil.
Another question, which is for Italy very important. The Pope made in the last time 2 or 3 very strong declarations supporting the fight for climate change and to find a way to go out in the short term. And now he's announcing an encyclical which will have a big impact. 1 billion people in the world is Catholic. I would like to know, I have read on your newspaper very strong and negative reaction in the States, and probably in September the Pope will arrive in the States with a new encyclical.
Well, I think the Pope is coming to the United States Congress. He was invited there actually by the Speaker of the House, who is a Catholic and a Republican. And
Catholic and Republican.
yeah, and he probably, the Speaker may have difficulty receiving the encyclical because I think it's going to be fairly significant as a statement about the environment, about climate change, about solidarity with the rest of the world, and particularly the impact of all these actions on the world's poor. I am a very big fan of the Pope. He's I think a significant leader on a variety of different discussions, but on this discussion, there's probably no one in the United States who speaks with such broad moral authority as the Pope does. Even though we're not a Catholic country, there are many Catholics, but many of the other people in the United States, Protestants, Jews, Muslims, they view the Pope as having global moral authority. So for him to have an encyclical on climate change, on the environment, and really, you know, to do it in an encyclical, not just a speech, it has great significance for us as Americans, and I'm very much looking forward to the encyclical. I'm looking forward to his visits to the United States Congress.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.